Have you ever wondered how one man and his family could construct a vessel so massive that it could hold every species on Earth? How could it withstand the greatest storm in history? And why did God give Noah such precise instructions, down to the wood, the pitch, and even the internal compartments? Genesis 6 verse 14 tells us, "Make yourself an ark of gopher wood, make rooms in the ark, and cover it inside and out with pitch." But what did that actually look like? How was it built? And how did Noah, living in a world untouched by modern technology, turn these divine instructions into reality? Welcome, seekers of truth. Here we uncover the mysteries hidden in the Bible. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell, and like this video, and share it with someone who loves the Word of God. Today, we explore a story of faith, obedience, and a structure unlike anything humanity had ever built. Imagine a vessel 137 meters long, 23 meters wide, 3 stories tall, larger than a football field, taller than a 4-story building, constructed entirely by hand. Every plank, every beam, every layer of pitch carried both physical weight and spiritual purpose. Today, we will reveal step by step how Noah obeyed God's command, transforming a divine blueprint into a floating sanctuary that preserved life itself. So, how did Noah organize such a massive project? How did he choose the right wood, the right site, and the right method to ensure it would survive the flood? And most importantly, what lessons can we learn about faith, obedience, and God's guidance from the construction of the ark? Stay with us, because by the end of this video, you'll see Noah's ark not as a myth, but as a living example of divine instruction and human perseverance, and you may never look at the Bible the same way again. Before the ark could rise from the earth, Noah faced the first challenge: choosing the right place to build it. Where do you start when the structure you are about to build is larger than anything the world has ever seen? How do you prepare land that will hold the weight of hundreds of tons of wood, animals, and supplies? Noah had to answer these questions with wisdom, discernment, and faith. Genesis 2 verse 6 tells us, "A mist went up from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground." The pre-flood world was constantly moist. The soil, rich and fertile, was also soft and unstable. For a structure as massive as the ark, any slope, loose soil, or hidden swamp could have caused disaster before the first plank was even laid. Noah would have had to walk the terrain carefully, examining firmness, observing water flow, and deciding where the foundation could safely rest. How did he determine which spot was best? Through patient observation, practical skill, and guidance from God. Imagine Noah and his sons pacing the land, measuring distances with ropes and cubits, testing soil with simple stakes, ensuring it could bear unimaginable weight. Large stones were removed, roots and tangled vegetation uprooted, and the ground leveled meter by meter. Without machines, without modern tools, every task demanded human strength and divine perseverance. And yet, there was another challenge: the constant moisture of the earth itself. If left unchecked, the wet soil could turn to mud, tools would sink, and wood would begin to absorb moisture before it could even be assembled. What could Noah do? The solution, simple yet brilliant, came from observation. He dug shallow channels around the construction site to divert the natural mist and groundwater. These early drainage systems allowed the land to dry just enough to serve as a foundation, a subtle combination of faith and practical engineering that ensured the ark could rise safely. As Noah worked, the people of the surrounding land surely watched with curiosity, confusion, and even mockery. Why would anyone build such a colossal structure in a world where rain had never fallen from the sky? Why spend decades cutting timber, leveling land, and digging channels for a vessel no one believed would ever float? Yet Noah's focus was not on human understanding. He did not act according to what was popular or logical in the eyes of men. He acted according to God's command. Every stone removed, every root extracted, and every channel carved into the earth was a step of faith. How long did it take to prepare this land? We are not told, but the meticulous care described suggests months, perhaps years, of preparation before the first beam was raised. Noah's work was more than construction, it was obedience in motion. Each decision, from choosing the flattest land to redirecting moisture, reflected a combination of wisdom, patience, and absolute trust in God's plan. This phase, often overlooked, set the stage for every other detail of the Arkansas. Without stable land, the largest wooden structure in history could have failed before it even began. And so, Noah's faith was demonstrated not only in following God's command, but in mastering the world he had been given, testing the soil, managing water, and preparing the ground with hands, eyes, and heart fully devoted to the task. This was the foundation, in every sense of the word, on which salvation itself would rest. Once the ground was prepared, Noah faced the next monumental challenge: gathering the timber. Genesis 6 verse 14 had been clear: "Make yourself an ark of gopher wood." But what did that mean in practical terms? In the ancient world, felling massive trees without saws, cranes, or modern machinery was no small task. How did Noah accomplish it? How did one man and his family manage to harvest and transport enough wood to build a floating city? The forests of the pre-flood world were dense with enormous cypress and other resilient trees. Each tree had to be selected carefully for strength, durability, and size. Felling them was a slow, painstaking process, requiring daily labor and coordinated effort. Axes struck in rhythmic precision, each blow carefully placed to guide the tree's fall safely. One misstep could destroy the timber or endanger lives. How much patience and endurance did this demand? Only decades of disciplined work could have brought these massive logs down safely and intact. But cutting the trees was only the beginning. Once felled, each log, some weighing several tons, had to be transported to the construction site. Without wheels or beasts of burden capable of carrying them, Noah and his sons relied on ingenuity. They placed smaller logs beneath the larger ones, creating simple but effective rollers. With ropes and levers, they pulled the massive beams slowly across the land. As each log moved forward, the rear rollers were lifted and placed at the front, a cycle repeated countless times. Can you imagine the coordination required? Each movement demanded careful planning, strength, and absolute faith that their labor was part of God's plan. And yet, all the while, the world around them watched. Villagers likely observed this extraordinary effort with a mixture of mockery, skepticism, and curiosity. Why spend decades hauling logs for a structure that will never float? Some might have whispered. Others may have wondered, what could be so important that a man would devote his life to a single task? Noah did not answer. His work was not motivated by human approval but by divine instruction. The eyes of God, not men, guided his hands. Every tree felled, every log rolled, and every lever adjusted reflected a combination of human ingenuity and obedience to God. It was a rhythm of faith and labor. How did Noah keep this process moving for decades? Perseverance, discipline, and an unwavering trust in God's word. Exodus 31 verse 3 reminds us that God grants skill, knowledge, and craftsmanship to those who follow him. In Noah, we see these gifts applied on a massive scale, turning a forest of trees into the framework of salvation itself. By the time the logs were gathered, the scale of the project became visible, a vast collection of beams, ready to be assembled into a vessel that would preserve life from the coming flood. The ark was not a simple boat. It was an engineered sanctuary, carefully planned from the divine blueprint to the very last plank, brought into reality by hands guided by faith and wisdom. Every log carried the weight of purpose, every effort a step toward preserving the world. And so, the scene is set, the forest cleared, logs transported, and the ark skeleton ready to rise from the earth. But the labor was far from over. The next challenge, constructing the hull, raising the ribs, and forming the backbone of the vessel, would test Noah's skill and resolve even further. How did he transform these logs into a massive, three-story sanctuary? How were the beams joined to withstand the flood's waters? These questions take us to the very heart of the ark's construction, a story of engineering, faith, and divine obedience unlike any other in history. With the timber harvested and transported, Noah faced the most critical stage of all, laying the foundation. Genesis 6 verse 15 tells us, "This is how you are to make it. The length of the ark 300 cubits, its breadth 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. These were not just measurements. They were the structural backbone, the divine proportions for a vessel that would preserve every living creature. How did Noah translate this blueprint into a real, stable, and precise framework capable of withstanding the coming deluge? The first step was constructing the keel, the central beam that would serve as the spine of the Arkansas. It had to be strong, straight, and continuous. But there was a problem. No single tree, however large, could span 137 meters. How did Noah overcome this? He joined multiple giant beams end to end, using methods known to ancient shipbuilders: mortise and tenon joints, reinforced with hardwood pegs. Each connection had to be perfect. A single misaligned joint could compromise the entire structure. The ark's strength depended on both precision and patience. Once the keel was complete, the next challenge was raising the ribs, the arched beams that formed the hull. Genesis 6 verse 16 gives a hint of the ark's shape, but the process of turning logs into arches required skill, careful measurement, and extraordinary coordination. Noah and his sons carved each rib to fit precisely with the keel and with one another, ensuring that the curvature would form a stable, balanced hull. How did they know it was correct? Ancient builders often used plumb lines, stretched ropes, and simple geometric principles, techniques likely employed by Noah to guarantee symmetry and stability. Imagine the scene: enormous wooden ribs being lifted into place by ropes, levers, and sheer human strength. Each rib had to align perfectly with the keel and adjacent ribs. Adjustments were constant, angles checked repeatedly. A tilt too far to one side could shift the balance, weaken the hull, or endanger future passengers. Noah's work demanded a combination of faith, careful observation, and practical engineering insight that would rival even modern shipbuilding principles. This phase of construction also demonstrates ancient wisdom rarely acknowledged. The ark was more than a floating box. Its curved hull and strategic beam placement would allow it to ride the floodwaters without capsizing. Noah's task was not only to follow God's command, but to apply knowledge, experience, and ingenuity to create a vessel capable of surviving forces never before faced by humanity. Each hammer strike, each peg inserted, each rib lifted was a step toward preserving life itself. Even now, as the skeleton of the ark began to take shape, the world around Noah would have observed the enormous framework emerging from the prepared ground. The keel stretched across the plot, solid and unyielding. The ribs rose one by one, gradually forming the unmistakable shape of the Arkansas. How did Noah maintain accuracy over such a massive structure? How did he coordinate labor, manage weight distribution, and ensure every joint, beam, and peg was secure? The answer lies in a combination of divine guidance and human skill, the perfect harmony of obedience and craftsmanship. By the time the skeleton was completed, the ark was no longer just a collection of logs. It was a living structure, its framework solid, balanced, and precise. It would form the foundation for everything that followed: compartments, decks, food storage, and the housing of animals. This was the stage where faith met engineering, where divine instruction met human ingenuity, and where the first tangible evidence of God's promise began to rise from the earth. With the skeleton of the ark fully assembled, Noah and his family faced the next monumental task: sealing it against the waters that were soon to come. Genesis 6 verse 14 was explicit: "Cover it inside and out with pitch." But what did this process entail, and why was it so critical? How could the ark survive the greatest flood in history without becoming waterlogged, weakened, or destroyed? Pitch, or bitumen, was a natural resin known in the ancient world, sticky, dense, and waterproof. Applied to wood, it prevented absorption, rot, and compromise of structural integrity. Every plank, every joint, and every seam had to be coated meticulously. Imagine boiling pitch in large cauldrons, stirring it carefully to the right consistency, then brushing or troweling it over thousands of cubic meters of wood. One imperfect layer, one unsealed crack, and the ark could have failed before the flood even began. Noah and his sons had to apply multiple coats, allowing each layer to dry and harden before the next. The process required not only patience but also careful observation, watching the sun and wind, timing the applications, and testing each section to ensure it was airtight. How did they maintain this level of precision over decades? Through a combination of disciplined labor, inherited wisdom, and the guidance of God Himself. This stage of construction was as much spiritual as it was practical. Every sweep of the brush, every corner sealed, symbolized obedience, a tangible manifestation of faith in action. The ark was no longer merely timber, it was becoming a floating sanctuary, a vessel prepared for the preservation of life. It gleamed under the sun once coated, each surface reflecting both craftsmanship and divine purpose. And consider the scale of this labor. The ark measured 137 meters in length, 23 meters in width, and rose 3 stories high. Coating the interior alone meant hours of careful work in confined spaces, climbing ladders, reaching ceilings, applying pitch to floors, walls, and partitions. The exterior presented new challenges. working on scaffolds, balancing on beams, and ensuring that the vast structure was completely sealed against water penetration. How did Noah's family endure such toil? Their strength came from faith, their motivation from God's command, and their reward was the preservation of life. Once the waterproofing was complete, the ark was ready in both form and function. The wood no longer absorbed moisture, the seams were sealed, the hull was resilient against water pressure. The vessel was prepared to float, to shelter, and to survive a storm of unprecedented scale. In that moment, the ark stood as a testament to human obedience guided by divine instruction, a sacred marriage of skill, perseverance, and faith. The next stage would take us inside the ark, into the very heart of its purpose, organizing the compartments, storing food, and preparing for the arrival of the animals. But before that, take a moment to imagine the ark gleaming under the sunlight, its surfaces shining, its structure solid, and the anticipation of the coming flood growing. This was no ordinary construction. This was salvation in wood, pitch, and faith. With the ark sealed against the waters, Noah turned his attention inward. Genesis 6 verse 16 tells us, "A window shall you make to the ark, and it shall be a cubit from the top." And earlier, God commanded that the ark contain rooms, or compartments, in Hebrew, kinanim. But what did this mean for the living creatures that would soon fill the vessel? How could Noah organize hundreds, perhaps thousands, of animals to survive in harmony for over a year? The ark was built with 3 decks, a structure taller than a modern 4-story building. Each deck served a purpose. The lower floor, closest to the keel, was reserved for the largest and heaviest animals: elephants, bison, hippos, and large cattle. By placing the heaviest animals at the base, Noah maintained the center of gravity low, ensuring stability as the ark floated on the floodwaters. How did he determine which species went where? It was a combination of practical wisdom and careful observation, guided by God's command. The middle deck housed medium-sized creatures: lions, bears, deer, and domestic animals such as sheep, goats, and oxen. These animals were lighter, but still required ample space to move and rest. Compartment walls had to be strong enough to prevent predation, yet arranged to maintain balance and avoid unnecessary stress or chaos. Imagine Noah and his sons carving partitions, fitting beams to create safe, organized spaces, a careful logistical puzzle driven by both engineering and divine instruction. The upper deck contained birds, reptiles, and smaller animals. Their lighter weight reduced pressure on the lower decks and allowed for easier access to the clear-story window for ventilation. Genesis 6 verse 16 emphasizes the importance of this upper opening. It allowed fresh air to circulate throughout the 3 decks. Without adequate airflow, the interior would have quickly become deadly, as ammonia and other gases from so many animals accumulated. How did Noah manage ventilation? By designing small openings and channels, the ark maintained circulation, ensuring the air remained breathable for both animals and humans. Food storage was another critical consideration. Genesis 6 verse 21 commands, "Take with you of all food that is eaten, and store it for you and for them." Noah had to provide enough provisions for an entire year: hay and grains for herbivores, dried meats or stored feed for carnivores, fruits, roots, and water in jars and containers. These supplies had to be protected from moisture, organized efficiently, and easily accessible. How did he store them? Likely in secured bins, raised off the floor, and partitioned to prevent spoilage or contamination. Every cubic meter of the ark had a purpose. Every plank, every wall, every compartment was carefully planned to preserve life. The ark, therefore, was not just a floating container, it was a living ecosystem. Animals were separated by size, dietary needs, and temperament. Ventilation channels ensured life-sustaining airflow. Food storage was logically arranged for efficiency and longevity. This combination of practical knowledge, careful observation, and obedience to God's commands transformed the ark from a massive structure of wood into a functioning sanctuary capable of sustaining life in extreme conditions. Noah's preparation inside the ark mirrors his preparation outside, meticulous, disciplined, and guided by faith. Every decision, where to place a lion, how to stack containers of grain, how to maintain airflow, reflected a harmony between divine instruction and human ingenuity. And in these details, we see that the ark was more than a vessel. It was salvation, carefully planned and executed, a floating testimony of obedience, foresight, and God's protection. With the ark fully constructed, waterproofed, and organized inside, a final, critical feature remained: the door. Genesis 6 verse 16 commands, "And a door shalt thou make to the ark." Yet this was no ordinary doorway. It had to allow the entry of every creature, from the tiniest sparrow to the largest elephant, and yet maintain the structural integrity of the Arkansas. How could such a massive opening be both functional and secure? The door was reinforced with thick beams, cross-braced diagonally for strength. Ancient builders knew that vertical pivot systems were ideal for massive wooden doors. A single, strong shaft could bear weight and allow movement without weakening the structure. Noah and his sons tested each hinge, each beam, ensuring that the door could swing smoothly while remaining firmly attached to the ark side. Every detail mattered. A misalignment could compromise the vessel, endanger the animals, or disrupt the balance of this floating sanctuary. But the door carried more than physical significance. It was a threshold of faith, obedience, and divine protection. Genesis 7 verse 16 reveals the extraordinary moment, "And the Lord shut him in." Humanity built, God sealed. The ark had been completed by human hands, but its ultimate security was guaranteed by divine power. The door, once closed, became a symbol of God's promise, a literal and spiritual barrier safeguarding Noah, his family, and all the creatures inside. Before the final closure, Noah conducted meticulous inspections. He walked the decks, tapped beams to test for resonance, checked partitions, and ensured that all compartments were secure. Every joint, every peg, every plank of wood had to withstand not just the weight of provisions, but the immense pressures of the coming floodwaters. How did he ensure perfection? Through decades of experience, careful observation, and unwavering trust in God's instruction. Outside, the animals waited. Pairs of creatures, instinctively guided, approached the Arkansas. Elephants, lions, birds, and reptiles assembled with an order that defies explanation. The ark was complete, its interior ready, its structure solid. And then, as if the world itself acknowledged the obedience and faith of one man, the door closed. The resonant thud echoed across the pre-flood landscape, signaling both an end and a beginning. The final human act of preparation, followed immediately by God's protective seal. This moment invites us to reflect. Why did God himself close the door? What does it mean for us today that salvation, protection, and divine provision are ultimately God's to give? Noah had done everything within his power, built, organized, and prepared, yet the ultimate safeguarding of life was in God's hands. The ark was a collaboration of human effort and divine intervention, a living testament to faith, obedience, and God's promise. Now, with the door sealed, the world outside continued its normal rhythm, unaware, unprepared, and about to face a judgment unlike any other in history. Inside the ark, life was safe. Order had been established. And soon, the first drops of the flood would begin to fall, marking the beginning of a new chapter for humanity and the earth itself. As the ark stood complete, sealed, and watertight, an extraordinary scene unfolded, one that defies natural explanation. Genesis 7 verses 8 to 9 tells us, "Of every clean beast thou shalt take by sevens, the male and his female, and of beasts that are not clean by two, the male and his female, of fowls also of the air by sevens, the male and the female, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth." And so it began. Pairs of animals, predators and prey, the timid and the fierce, the smallest sparrow to the mightiest elephant, began to approach the Arkansas. But they did not arrive by chance. Somehow, they came in order, instinctively, calmly, without chaos. Lions walked beside deer. Birds landed near openings, their wings fluttering but never colliding. Reptiles crawled precisely into compartments prepared for them. Could this have been coincidence, or was it the hand of God guiding every creature to its place? Genesis 7 verse 15 confirms, "And they went in unto Noah into the ark, 2 and 2 of all flesh, wherein is the breath of life." Every movement, every pair, arriving as though orchestrated by divine command. Inside, Noah and his family were busy ensuring everything was in order. Feed was distributed, hay and grains placed in feeding troughs, water containers secured. Partitions were checked, beams reinforced, and every creak of the massive structure monitored. The ark, now brimming with life, became a world within a world, each compartment carefully organized, each animal secured, each plank tested against the increasing weight of provisions and occupants. And then, the waters began to rise. Genesis 7 verses 11 to 12 says, "In the 600th year of Noah's life, the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. And the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. First, the underground waters burst forth, shaking the earth. Then, torrential rain descended from above. Slowly at first, the ark's massive hull lifted from the ground, floating gently as the waters covered the plains, the valleys, and the forests. Imagine the sensation, the solid ground disappearing beneath your feet, the massive ark rising with a mix of power and grace. The timbers creaked and groaned, but the structure held. The ark, a vessel of salvation, floated exactly as God had promised. Outside, the world was unrecognizable, a flood of water swallowing everything that had once been familiar. Inside, life was preserved, animals, humans, and the provisions necessary to sustain them, all safe, all guided by divine purpose. In these first moments, we witness the perfect harmony of human preparation and divine orchestration. Noah's obedience, careful planning, and relentless labor had created a structure capable of withstanding a catastrophe the world had never known. Yet it was God's hand that ensured every animal found its place and that the ark floated safely on the rising waters. This was the threshold between judgment and salvation, destruction and life, chaos and divine order. And then, the unthinkable began. Genesis 7 verses 19 to 20 says, "And the waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth, and all the high hills that were under the whole heaven were covered. 15 cubits upward did the waters prevail, and the mountains were covered. The fountains of the deep had burst forth. The rain from heaven poured ceaselessly. Valleys, forests, cities, everything that had once teemed with life was now submerged under unstoppable floodwaters. Outside, the world had become unrecognizable. Rivers turned into torrents. Mountains disappeared beneath waves. Life that had not entered the ark faced certain destruction. The chaos was absolute, yet inside the ark, order, calm, and life persisted. Noah, his family, and the animals were protected, sustained by a vessel built through obedience, guided by divine instruction, and sealed by the very hand of God. Every beam, every partition, every layer of pitch proved its worth as the ark floated steadily on the surging waters. It is here, in these harrowing days, that the true miracle of God's providence is revealed. The ark was not a mere boat, it was a sanctuary of life, a floating testament to faith in action. Noah's meticulous preparation, the compartments, food storage, ventilation, structural reinforcements, all combined with God's hand to preserve life. How was it possible that amidst such destruction, the ark remained unharmed? It was not human skill alone, it was divine protection meeting human obedience. Imagine the interior of the ark, animals resting quietly in their compartments, hay and grain safe and dry, water containers intact, air circulating through the clerestory windows. Light filtered gently through the openings above, casting a soft glow on the timbered walls. The creaking of wood, the occasional rustle of an animal, and the rhythmic sound of the rising waters outside created a contrast between destruction and salvation, chaos and divine order. This was the calm in the eye of the storm, the sanctuary amid judgment, the fulfillment of God's promise to preserve a remnant of life. And in these days, Noah's faith, patience, and obedience reached their climax. Every action he had taken, from choosing the site, felling trees, constructing the ark, applying pitch, organizing compartments, and finally trusting God to close the door, culminated in this single moment. The ark was afloat, secure, and divinely protected. And Genesis 7 verse 24 reminds us, "And the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. For 5 months, the ark remained the sole bastion of life in a world overwhelmed by judgment." This portion of the story raises profound questions. How do obedience and faith transform human effort into divine preservation? Why did God choose to act through human hands rather than intervening directly? And how does this narrative, ancient yet eternal, reflect God's providence in preserving life and fulfilling His promises? As the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat, Genesis 8 verse 4 reminds us, "The ark rested upon the mountains of Ararat." After months afloat, through storms, rising waters, and destruction, life had been preserved. Noah's ark was not merely a vessel of wood and pitch, it was a monument of faith, obedience, and divine providence. Every plank, every joint, every carefully designed compartment tells a story of a man who listened, obeyed, and trusted God's command fully. This story did not end when the waters receded. It set the foundation for a new beginning. Humanity restarted, the earth restored, and God's covenant with life reaffirmed. Genesis 9 verses 12 to 13 promises, "And God said, This is the token of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature with you. I do set my bow in the cloud." The rainbow became a visible sign of God's mercy and preservation, a reminder that even amid judgment, life and hope endure. What lessons can we take from Noah's obedience? How does faith in God transform human effort into divine preservation? And what came next for Noah, his family, and the creatures that survived? These questions invite us to explore the world after the flood, the restoration of life, and God's continued guidance for humanity. Join us in our next video, where we will uncover what happened after the flood, the repopulation of the earth, the covenant with humanity, and the profound lessons that continue to shape our understanding of God's plan for life.